My takeaways that yes, our frustrations and our challenges are many, but there is a place for optimism. That optimism drives a lot of the work that we continue to do in our entities, in our departments, in our NGOs and our CSOs, and we must not lose sight of how important it is to remain optimistic.
Congratulate you on your comparing this event.
Thank you.
You've been fantastic. So I'm inspired partly by Brianna's comment on the future. So the general theme of the conference is a resilient Commonwealth. And the president of Singapore has said, you can't be resilient unless you're optimistic. And the greatest public policy crisis for the Commonwealth is the collapse of optimism. So could I ask each of the four of you, what makes you optimistic and what makes you optimistic for the world? A belief that good things will happen and that things will work out.
Beautiful question. Absolutely. I will start with Dr. Hospitalis. Thank you for the kind compliment.
Well, confession. I'm a doctor, so I deal in death and disease. And I tend not to be very optimistic about the future of this planet. Well, the planet will be here. I'm not so sure about the tenants. But what gives me some hope for optimism is to be doing stuff. Because if I stop doing, I would get depressed. So what gives me, and when I see that there is a bubbling up of concern across the world, especially among young people, and people are doing things, that gives me some hope for the future.
Thank you. Brianna?
Yeah, I have so much hope in the fact that this is an intersectional crisis. And a lot of people would think, because there's so many crises, shouldn't I be pessimistic? But I believe to truly grasp at the solution, we must get to the root. So we can't have climate justice without the justice within our health systems. We can't have climate justice without freedom of expression, without rights for women, without looking after for those who are falling through the gaps in our communities. We can't have any of this unless we have all of it. And so I believe that the crises we're experiencing now is like a woven mat, or in Samoa we call fala. And once you stop pulling at a thread, the rest unravel. So wherever we are today, whether we're pulling at the thread of the health injustices, or whether we're pulling at the thread of censorship, whatever thread we're pulling at, I believe that will unravel all the crises we're experiencing. And I have hope in that because I believe there are people in every corner of the world pulling on their threads.
Thank you, Mr. Moala.
I believe that optimism is only possible when you failed. Just think about it a little bit. When you're doing so well without any failure, you don't need to be optimistic. You don't need to be hopeful. And so it brings me back to the word resilient that we use quite a bit. I was thinking in the Tongan language how to translate resilient. We don't have a word for resilient. And every leader in the Pacific used resilient. So I started to think, boy, you got to write a book to translate this in what resilient is. But in the Tongan language, resilient simply means when you fall, you get up and go again. And when you fall, if you're optimistic, you'll get up. If you've lost hope, you won't get up. So to be resilient is the urge for us. To be optimistic is when you fall. Now Singapore experienced it. A country kicked out of Malaysia. And the British wouldn't even touch them. They fell. But they got up again, thank God. And they went on.
Thank God. No, I am not a panelist, but I do know that you invited me into the conversation. In Jamaica, we have a mantra. We say we're little, but we're talawa. It means that we are small. We are a small dot on this map, but we've been able to overcome extreme challenges. And we've always been able to shine on any world stage and to show that even though we are small, we have a big spirit. We have a big might. There's nothing that is bigger than us. There's nothing that is big enough to throw us off course. So will challenges come? Yeah, but we are bigger than our fear. We are bigger than our challenges. And when we look back in our history and we see how much people have fought for us to be here, it is only right that in our DNA we will continue to fight, in our hope and in our optimism, that we will make a better world tomorrow. And so that is what keeps me very, very hopeful. And I thank you for your question. Thank you.